They're some of the biggest names in showbiz and they dress to match. The actors who bring the most famous soap in the world to our screens are the darlings of the tabloid photographers. But when they're on set, the image is more starchy than Versace.
It's its own design for me, it's called a hero.
Out go the glad rags, in come the sad rags, for that famous Weatherfield chic.
Groovy. It's well smart, eh?
Less Dolce & Gabbana, more Dolesville and disaster.
Fashion and style in the street.
Oh, the clothing.
Is there any?
It's usually pretty naff, isn't it?
It's very dour and dowdy.
Coronation Street is always at least a year behind the fashion of the real world.
Fashion in Weatherfield is steeped in the tradition of Baldwin's casuals and has been for many decades, so they're up against it.
So, pull up your front row seats, ladies and gentlemen, for the fashion show with a difference as we celebrate 4 decades of street style.
Boy, don't go away.
For over 40 years, the residents of the most famous street in TV land have been in their own unique clothes shop window. From Ina's hairnet to Bet's beehive, we've gasped, winced, laughed, and sometimes just stared open-mouthed at the styles that have passed for fashion on Coronation Street. Long before Trinny and Susanna came along, the good people of Weatherfield taught us all what not to wear.
Throw Trinny and Susanna to the residents of Weatherfield and they would just rip them apart, because I think particularly the women of the street, they're not dowdy. It's like, we'll wear what we like and we're happy.
Some people would look at it and think, oh my God, what has she got on? But then you would walk round the corner of a street in Manchester and see someone dressed exactly the same. And that's the beauty of it. It's got to be real. It can't be necessarily high fashion all the time. And it's got to be appropriate for the character that's wearing it.
We are portraying some fairly down-at-heel working-class people in a little back street in Manchester. And most of our characters haven't got very much money.
Hey, Jack, I do look all right, don't I?
You look great. Terrific. I've not even had a drink yet.
So, is the street a fashion disaster zone or a northern window on working-class realism?
It's set where it's set, and you wear the clothes that you would wear if that's where you lived, and so it kind of it fits, if you ask me.
You don't see people walking around in Top Gear and designer suits and all these designer labels.
I mean, there's nobody kind of, you know, wandering around in Prada or Gucci and doing that kind of whole thing, and there's no reason why they should.
You see what they'd be able to afford with the jobs that they've got and practical kind of clothes. You know, the factory girls would wear tabards to the pub. They wouldn't bother, like, putting lippy on and everything, would they, just to go for a pint at lunchtime?
Our fashion has always been a step behind and a bit weird. I mean, look at Bet and all that leopard skin. I mean, yeah, OK, probably a few people in Bury Market dressed like that in the 60s. But when you're in the 90s, it's sort of taken on some iconic statement.
The ultimate symbols of street style have been the legendary accessories. Every one is someone's favourite.
You can always associate leopard print with Bet Lynch.
Vera's crazy earrings.
Short skirts and dangly earrings, Raquel.
Deirdre's glasses.
Tight micro lycra mini skirts, Liz MacDonald.
There's some characters whose sense of fashion and style is kind of a little bit extreme, but very funny at the same time. And would only suit, you know, the Leses, the Kirks, the Fizzes.
Groovy outfit, Wes.
Yeah, did that snake bite you when you killed it?
The price of the jacket stung me and all that.
Well, I saw you coming.
What do you mean?
Well, it's plastic, even I can tell that.
Well, I'm against harming wildlife, aren't I? Tough but tender, that's me.
If anybody comes in wearing high fashion, look at that. Isn't that disgusting? The money they've spent on that rubbish. You can see everything what she's wearing under that dress. Disgraceful. And that's the essence of the street commentary as well about fashion.
What can you expect? Where there's no sense, there's no shame.
I think she looks rather nice in her, them glinty bits, bring out the glints in her hair.
I think Corrie's got a bit of a bad press when it comes to fashion because the image is it's very dour and dowdy.
I think probably the dowdiness and the grey was associated with the fact that it was in black and white.
When that famous theme tune first rang out on the 9th of December 1960, it heralded a breakthrough in British television. Here for the first time was a twice-weekly drama reflecting the humdrum lives of ordinary working people. And back then, the clothes matched the lifestyle.
People wore grey, black, and they kept their clothes much longer than we did, and most of them were a bit grubby because they didn't have washing machines. Women washed clothes in the sink, outside, in cold water, and hung them on the line, and that was it, and in front of the fire. That was the way people lived. So if you can't have cleaning machines, then you must wear dark clothes which don't show the dirt.
The street's first big fashion statement came from an unlikely source. Battle axe Ina Sharples wore the most famous bit of headgear ever seen on television.
Well, she was an icon, wasn't she, really? I mean, the whole thing was that in black, with the hairnet, she looked so much like something out of a Greek tragedy. And there she was in the pub, bewailing the state of the nation.
Violet Carson came up with the hairnet. And there's actually not one hairnet, there's three, because one doesn't show up on camera.
Her hair was absolutely beautiful underneath that hairnet, and she made an absolute point of when that hairnet came off. It was beautifully rinsed and beautifully set.
Suddenly, you have colour TV, and that changes everything, because there's no point in having colour television if everybody's wearing grey and black. Might as well stick with monochrome.
Colour TV had a dramatic effect on the fashion sense of the nation, and it gave Coronation Street new opportunities for storylines and humour that are still explored today. Coming up in part 2, the new kids on the block who are making sure that the style is high on TV's #1 soap. And revealed the real reason they have a knicker factory on the street.
You can get all your jokes in about gussets, and you can have Mike saying, "Someone's ripped me knickers off."
Soap stars are the movie stars of the 21st century, and the cast of Curry are the biggest of the lot. Names like Kate Ford, Saran Jones and Shobna Gulati help shift newspapers and magazines, so when soap celebs gather, the press pack aren't far away. It's a far cry from the days of Ina Sharples and Hilda Ogden.
I think recently Corrie's become more fashionable, all right. It's not Hollyoaks, it never will be Hollyoaks, because you can't imagine Blanche in a thong. I'm glad you can't imagine Blanche in a thong, really.
No, it's not Blanche you're likely to see in the foxy outfits on today's Corrie. That's because, like all other soaps, the chase is on for younger viewers, and they know exactly what they want.
They're interested in this whole thing about celebrity. You want people that you can see on screen and then see in OK and Hello. You want to follow their lifestyles, the way they dress at the awards ceremonies. That is very, very important these days. And you would be stupid as programme makers not to look at that and not to tap into that in some way.
I think as time has gone on and magazines and newspapers have become more fashion obsessed, we probably look a little bit more closely, particularly the younger characters. There's probably a belief that they would be more interested in, the different clothes. It's probably become a little bit more fashion conscious than perhaps it used to be in the past.
Hiring good-looking people isn't new. They've been doing it in Aussie and American soaps for years. Over here, we still care about the important things.
So long as you've got people who can, deliver the lines well and develop the character well, that's the most important thing. It helps if they're good looking.
And once you've decided to bring in young, beautiful actors, attention to fashion detail comes naturally.
Karen MacDonald, the most aspirational woman I think Weatherfield's ever seen. She reads OK and Hello, and then the next minute, she tries and does that on a budget. She even had her hair cut like posh spies.
I think because there are a lot of younger characters who appeal to the younger audience, you know, it's nice to see your younger characters in nice trendy clothes. And obviously characters like Candice, she works at a salon and she does her hair nice and she does her makeup nice and wears lovely clothes. And I think that's nice because that's what young girls do.
Doesn't he look cool in his suit? I love a man that dresses smart.
It's great to see Maria and Candice kind of trying to outdress each other and, you know, have the latest fashion on. I think that's fantastic because it makes it much more real.
Samia Gardi is the quintessential 21st century soap star. She's young, bright and beautiful and stylish to match. That makes her perfect photo shoot material for the TV and style magazines. But Samia works in Soapland, so she knows that when she's being Corrie's Maria Sutherland, she won't always be dressed up to the nines.
Her image has changed quite a few times, and that's why I'm sort of never bored with the character, because her image changes all the time and her attitude to certain things changes all the time. And there was sort of one stage when she first started doing the hairdressing, I thought, yeah, this is quite cool. She's wearing like funky little vest tops and nice little mini skirts. And then they said, oh, we're going to put you in the bar when you come back from Canada. Still great. And then the producer said, yeah, the skirt's going to be a little bit shorter and the neckline's going to be a little bit lower, and you're going to be totally different again. And I was like, right, okay. So I sort of took a deep breath and went in costume to see what was sort of awaiting for me. I'm going to show you our lovely, lovely costume department, and let's find Alex and she'll show us what I'm wearing this week.
Hello, I'm just sorting a few things out before you know. Right. You're going on your date, aren't you? Maria's going on her date, so we thought bit flirty, so we thought that could be one option.
Very pretty woman, isn't it?
Or you've got this little new outfit that you haven't tried on yet, have you?
Now, I actually went shopping for this myself and I saw it and I thought, that is so Maria. And it's all matching and everything.
Very sexy.
And even the pocket matches the top. It's perfect for Maria.
And it's tiny.
And it's tiny as well. The skirt isn't much different to one of like Jack's belts or something, is it? I was originally brought in as a kennel maid, and when I went for the audition, the character was described as being a female version of Tyrone. And which I wasn't too chuffed about, and I was a bit maybe insulted when I got the part, because I was like, what are they saying, do I look like Tyrone? I went shopping, I remember going shopping for my first costume, and we walked around Manchester and I thought, oh, they're gonna like maybe, you know, get me some girly clothes. And they picked out the most hideous jeans that were like baggy at the thigh and then really tight at the calf, and wellies and big baggy t-shirts, and in makeup I had like a bit of foundation, no blusher, no eyeshadow, no lip gloss, and that was it.
Maria was about to undergo a classic Corrie makeover. New job, new look.
Maxine's offered to take you to her house during your break.
What for?
Well, I thought you might like to try a few of my clothes on, like a little bit of a makeover.
Well, I'm fine as I am, thanks. Make sure you've got plenty of sticky tape to hand. You'll need it to shift the dog hairs.
You've got a lovely figure, Maria. You should make the most of it.
Yeah, all right then. Why not?
Maxine actually did the makeover in the show, but behind the scenes, we sort of went out and bought Maria all the little mini skirts and the low-cut tops and things like that. So it was kind of a mixture between me and costume and the actual producer as well, who had his own input and wanted me to sort of change my hairstyle a bit as well.
Right. Talk of the devil. She looks like her head slapper.
Flipping heck.
Hey, put your tongue back in. Big deal. She's had a wash. She still looks like a kennel scrubber to me.
Now, this is my rail, and it's got a lot bigger since I was a kennel maid. When I was a kennel maid, I just had a pair of big baggy jeans and a polo t-shirt that was really baggy. And now, since she was a hairdresser, and then even more so when she was a barmaid, I've got all this, and I love it. It's very tarty, but it's very nice for Maria. This is the first top that I want to show you because it's the smallest. And This is kind of what Maria was famous for when she was behind the bar, and it's just a handkerchief, basically. She only ever wore it when she was in the Rovers.
She's got a decent figure on her.
And we haven't discussed anything.
Who, Maria? Yeah, she's all right. Looks a bit of a tease, though.
The lads were just like, what aren't you wearing, basically? And everyone's jaw dropped, and the older members of the cast were kind of looking away in embarrassment, and I was very embarrassed. This outfit is one that I chose myself for Maria, because it was when she seduced Nick at Gail and Richard's wedding, and that's what she was wearing, and that's what he couldn't resist. This dress I want to show you, because I quite like it. It's quite retro, and it's a bit long for Maria, actually, isn't it? It's a bit too long. But this is the dress she wore when she was back with Nick, and they went on the first date to the posh hotel, and they got up to naughtiness in the hotel.
And as the wardrobe gets bigger, so does the cock-up factor.
And I remember once Kate Ford, who plays Tracy, came down, and I said, get my top off, that's my top. And I had it on the week before, and she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. It's like, we have been caught in each other's clothes quite a few times, us sort of floozies of the show.
At least Samia enjoys wearing some of Maria's outfits. Not everyone is so lucky. Who'd be a Battersby?
Oh, Leanne's image and style on the street was was a car crash in slow motion. It was just horrendous. The makeup department decided that they'd go for the sort of second-hand Spice Girl look, because the Spice Girls were really in at the time. And because I was new to the job, you know, and I would have done anything to be in Coronation Street at that time, and I was all green to it, and I didn't dare say anything to anybody. And I was sat there thinking, oh, it's horrible, it's awful. So for the first sort of 6 months of being in the show, I had to walk around with pink hair, and as my hair grew, I had black roots, and it was just horrendous.
The current youngsters don't know they're born. Remember young Tracy Barlow? Only one word for it.
Horrendous, to be honest. When I first went into the show at 11, it kind of ended up staying along those lines for quite a few years, and I used to be moaning and whinging all the time because they wouldn't let me wear any makeup, and they used to, you know, I used to watch myself on TV and think, oh, you look so dowdy, you look like such a geek. The one thing I did bring to that character was Doc Marten boots, which I always wore, and Tracy ended up just wearing them for years, and even ended up getting married in a pair. Shoes.
Well, that's something at least. Let me see. Child, you can't get married in them.
Why not?
You can't get married in navvy boots.
The heavy boot look has been a staple since the days of Len Fairclough and Ray Langton. Recently, Charlie Stubbs has been carrying on the tradition of bricklayer chic. It helps if you've got your own gear.
Well, funnily enough, I do wear the check shirts. I've only got one, but I do wear it quite a bit, or I did wear it quite a bit.
Yes, once you've worn something on screen, you can forget about wearing it when you're off screen.
Downside is that I can't wear check shirts ever again. So I've got a kind of big fleecy checked jacket thing is that I get recognised about 3 or 4 times more often if I wear that than if I don't.
And has there ever been a more schizophrenic dresser than Sunita Parekh? The poor girl veers from Asian sophistication to shop girl frump. Mind you, she did get off to an awful start.
My first publicity photo was in an orange polo neck jumper, and then it was the publicity photo that went everywhere. She looked awful, I looked awful. It was just the most embarrassing thing, so that when I finally realised I could pluck up the courage to say, ditch the jumper, I did.
Ditch the jumper, slip into a sari. A different girl altogether.
Her choice of Indian clothes are often more sophisticated than a choice of Western clothes. At the same time, though, there are moments when she's worn, you know, her Indian clothes inappropriately as well, like, you know, turning up at the Rovers in full sari clad just to go out on a date with Dev.
Drop dead gorgeous.
Oh, absolutely beautiful.
Oh, Sunita, it's much nicer than that dress we saw in town.
Oh, thanks. I was kind of hoping he'd be here before. I think that's where my choices come in, actually, is that I do tend to choose Sunita's Asian fashion. only because I know where to get it from. And all of that, really. I think, you know, and if I can go and get it, then costume are usually quite happy with my choices.
Sanita famously almost got married to Irish beefcake Kieran. Shame about the nuptials, but nice dress, girl.
She did look lovely on the day. She'd made a real effort. She'd got all her jewellery right, you know, and actually transforming herself into this bride-to-be.
But not every day's a wedding day. Most of the time, Sanita is the frumpy girl behind the till in the corner shop.
I'd like to consider myself slightly different and perhaps a little more style-conscious.
Just across the street from the corner shop is the beating heart of the Weatherfield fashion industry, the naughty knicker nirvana that is Underworld.
I suppose there is a certain irony, given the fact that most of the women in Coronation Street work in the rag trade, or fashion, as perhaps Karen MacDonald would have it, that they don't necessarily always make the most of what the good Lord has given them.
Probably is a certain irony that we've had various fashion outlets over the years in the street, given that so many of the characters appear to ignore fashion. But, you know, that's the kind of reality, that the places where these clothes are made are these little back streets in inner city areas. So I think that's actually very real.
They're good circumstances. They're good places to hang stories on. You know, you've got girls in a factory making knickers. I mean, they're good scenes, aren't they? I mean, the mind goes on from there.
Indeed, the storylines can stretch like Underworld's knicker elastic. Who can forget the classic yarn of budding designer Fizz Brown having her underwear designs ripped off by Mike Baldwin?
Come on, admit it. You like my designs.
I've seen better gear than that in an Amsterdam knocking shop.
Fizz, when she first came in, it will give an example of how bad the fashion sense is. She was regarded as a style icon and was actually making clothes for everyone in the street. And if you look at Fizz and go, now that's the way I want to look, it gives you a little indication of how bad things are up there.
To Fizz, the Coco Chanel of Weatherfield.
I'm more Vivienne Westwood, mate.
The Underworld product range is fascinating as a writer because you can get all your jokes in about gussets. And you could have Mike saying, someone ripped me knickers off.
What do they make at Underworld? It's no wonder it keeps going up in flames because, again, it's wall-to-wall synthetics.
I have to be honest, I've never really studied the Underworld product range too closely. We pay a lot of attention to the stories. All I know is they make knickers and I don't go any closer than that.
You'd be in a scene and you'd be talking about a very important order, or, you know, we've not been paid for such and such. And this sort of life and death situation, is the company going to go under? And you'd look at what we were producing and you'd think, it's no wonder the company's going to go under.
The final word should probably go to a veteran of Baldwin's casuals, the woman who put the casual into casual labour.
I remember once in the factory, I said, you know, we should be getting more money because we're getting paid to act and use a machine. So the following week, there were no needling. I mean, they had to put it back because it didn't look right, but it was so funny, I couldn't stop laughing.
Coming up in part 3, Phoenix Nights, how Pat turned Elsie into the Queen of Soap. And from rollers to rugs, the accessories to the fashion crimes.
Then what they call hot pants?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah, I thought they was. Of course, we had them when I was a girl, you know. Only we called them shorts in them days. Same difference.
Yes, they've always had strong views on fashion in the street, even when Gail was a kid back in 1974. As Gail Potter, she was one of Weatherfield's token teenagers, favouring the hippie look, long hair, Afghan coat and jeans, but she wasn't averse to showing a bit of leg as well.
Gail did wear some short skirts when they could prise her out of the jeans. And I remember a little yellow top too, which was very risky. In fact, you know, if they offered me, if I could go back, I probably wouldn't wear it now, but I did then.
What do you think then, kid? I've put on £2 since last summer. Well, pull your tummy in a bit and stick your chest out. I can't stick my chest out. All they'll have to do.
I mean, I came in all those years ago wearing jeans and miniskirts, and here they are still wearing jeans and miniskirts 29 years later. So, you know, what's changed? And I say, I used to wear those. And they look at me aghast that I could have actually worn something as short as I say, well, actually, I wore it shorter than you.
What's up with you? Never seen a pair of legs before?
In those days, Gail's partner in fashion crime was Trisha Hopkins. When Trisha left, she teamed up with another, even brassier teenage tearaway who often led our Gail astray.
It'll shock a lot of people to think that Gail used to be sexy in her youth, but she did. She used to have all this hair. She used to have long hair and miniskirts with her friend Susie Birchall, and they put it about a bit, quite really. I mean, they were goers.
A bit like the Liver Birds girls. And Susie was the tarty one, have anything and go with anything. And Gail was just, you know, the shy one. And Susie was always getting Gail into trouble, I remember.
Gail and Susie actually worked in a Weatherfield boutique long before Mike Baldwin got into ladies' underwear, as you might say. In fact, younger viewers may be surprised to learn that Coronation Street has a long and rich tradition in centres of fashion excellence.
Right from the start, we've had clothes shops on Coronation Street. Elsie Tanner worked in the slightly better dress department of Miami Modes. Then we had Emily running Gamma Garment Modes, which was a boutique. And in the 70s, Mike Baldwin opened the Western Front, which was a shop which sold the clothes that he made in his denim factory.
In one extraordinary storyline, Emily Bishop, then Emily Nugent, was given a makeover and actually ran the wonderfully named Gamma Garments.
Well, what's the official verdict?
Great! You look great.
You do, you look fab. I don't like me. I don't wish to sound vain, and I know beauty's only skin deep, but... well, I thought I was all right before.
Aye, aye, God bless him.
But the queen of the Corrie boutiques and the street's first ever true icon of style was Gail's boss at Sylvia's Separates, the one and only Elsie Tanner.
Looks like she's been poured into it, hasn't she? It's a good job she didn't forget to say when, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it's a bit too,
Enough for me, darling.
The phrase fur coat and no knickers might have been invented for our Elsie.
Glamour came to Coronation Street in the shape of Pat Phoenix as Elsie Tanner. She was such a force of personality that she could actually wear a fur coat on set as Elsie Tanner and convinced the viewers that Elsie owned a fur. That's glamour.
That does it. I want to speak to the management. I am the management.
What Pat would do in Sylvia's Separates was play. And she just used to play at being a shop owner. And she'd try all these dresses on and she'd, you know, try them on us. She lived and breathed Elsie Tanner. She was. She adored it. And she loved being Pat as well.
She was a feisty female. The way she dressed, the way she spoke, everything. No, I love that. I do love that.
Daring in her dresses, highly fashionable fur collars, didn't give a very, very strong woman, new woman, first sign of it, and enforced by what she wears.
The styling was just perfect for her character of the time. The blouses, the pointed bras, the fantastic belts, the pencil skirts. She almost wouldn't look out of place today. A lot of the clothes that she's worn, come back round again and could be worn by some of the characters today.
I can still remember her now in that fabulous trench coat, belted very tightly, with that gorgeous red hair and 6-inch stilettos. That was one sexy lady.
Wardrobe couldn't get her to wear Elsie's clothes, to be honest. She just used to come in what she wanted to come in and she'd wear it. And of course, it didn't matter because it was absolutely the right thing.
How do I look?
And she would buy armful of clothes and bring them in and say, what do you think to this, kid? What do you think to this? Shall I wear this? Shall I wear this? And as long as it was down here and satin and frilly, I mean, that was all that mattered. And she'd say, I'll wear this for this scene, and then she'd go home in it, and then the next day she'd take all those clothes back and just bring another load out. And that was Pat and that was Elsie, and they were wonderful.
When Pat Phoenix was playing Elsie Tanner, there was no line between where the character started or ended and where the actress ended and started. And this was especially so with the clothes that she wore, because Pat would insist on wearing designer clothes. She'd get away with it because no one ever really stood up against her.
But Pat's complete disregard for the wishes of writers and wardrobe ultimately backfired on her.
But then the writers were a bit tired of it, and they had the ultimate revenge. It was 1981, and they sent Elsie out on a date. And she picked up a man basically in a bar. She took him home. She regretted it in the morning, but she left him to go to work. And then his wife tracked him down, and the revenge was the wife shredded all the clothes in Elsie's wardrobe. So that Pat Phoenix had to wear the same outfit. And if that wasn't enough, we gave her the added insult of having Hilda Ogden saying, "Here's a few bits I don't wear anymore."
It's just a blouse and a jumper. I thought they might come in handy. Look, Hilda, it's very good of you, but it's the least I can do, isn't it? I mean, if I can't help you in your hour of need, who can? Child.
That was the writers getting the revenge on a fashion-conscious actress.
Do the same for me if the need arose. Yeah, I would.
Nowadays, the cast of The Street work hand in glove with wardrobe and wouldn't dream of doing a Pat Phoenix.
Oh, no! No, that's not our job. No, I mean, everybody has their job here and everybody gets on with it. And it's not my job to interfere. I suppose if I really, really, really don't like something, then I just say, do you think I could wear that instead of that? Actually, as I'm saying this, if the wardrobe watch this, they're going to hoot, because I'm not sure I am always quite as nice as that.
The relationship between writers, wardrobe and actors has always been central to the creation and development of the great characters of the street.
I think everybody had an input to a degree, and you were given an outline of that character, where they came from. I was always interested in the background. What did they earn? What was their job? Would they be able to afford a certain item? And I think it was vitally important to not go beyond that, because I think the public are not stupid, and I think they would look at it and say, she couldn't afford that. She's only working in a factory, or she's only in a corner shop.
It comes from the story. The story, not the writers directly, and they're not prescriptive. So it's the costume department's interpretation of that as well, and how they perceive your character to be.
We have a wonderful wardrobe department, and our designers and our dressers and so on, they will put a lot of work into this, as indeed will the writers. But clearly the actors do bring something of themselves to the part. I think that's important, and that will go for little touches about the look and the clothes as well.
You have an opinion, or you discover that actually, you know, you have that isn't the kind of thing Joe would wear, and you just know, you know, instinctively. Or, you know, Joe would definitely wear something like that. Can I wear something like that? Oh, we'd not thought of that. Okay, we can, yeah, well, why not?
Why not indeed? For over 40 years now, generations of Corrie actors have been taking the raw material presented by scriptwriters and the costume department to create some of the best-loved characters ever seen on British television. It takes skill, vision, and just a little bit of ego.
Actors, probably get killed for saying this, but actors are actors because they want the attention. And if they dress different, if they have props which they can play with while someone else is saying their lines, then they've got the attention, haven't they?
Briefcase, we've got serial killer Dickie, hairnet, Ina, curlers, Hilda, glasses, Deirdre, glasses mended with plaster, Jack, little shopping bag, Roy Cropper, big earrings, Liz McDonald, leopard print, Bet. All of them, it's like the one fashion item defines the character.
Darren Little probably knows more about Weatherfield than anyone else. These days he's a scriptwriter, but he used to be the programme archivist and has written 11 books about the street. He knows all the stories behind the great street characters and their looks, characters like Hilda Ogden.
It was Jean Alexander who created the turban and the curlers, because she felt that Hilda had been in munitions during the war, and she remembered all the girls on the trains who would come out of munitions with their curlers, and they'd be getting ready on the train, going off to Burton Wood down Warrington Way to meet the Yanks.
Over the years, the characters and their unique styles have just kept coming.
Bev Callard definitely drew the short straw with Liz MacDonald's wardrobe. Some of the clothes they used to make her wear, and I used to feel like so sorry for her, because she'd come out and say, look, it was all, you know, down here and up here, and just so tacky.
2 words about that: lamb and mutton. And I think female viewers are just thinking, you know, dress your age, woman.
I could try a skirt on and say, oh, this is great, and it was a little bit longer, you know, and maybe just not quite as tight. And so costume department would say, fantastic, we'll get that and we'll shorten it and take it in.
She used to come out of wardrobe just like, look what they've got me in today. Poor Bev.
When Anne Bride came on, she said, I don't know where these glasses are going to make me different. And they said, oh no, what about contact lenses? And she's like, no. Glasses. A character who wears glasses is different, because it wasn't one at that point.
Deirdre and her glasses. Not really much of a fashion statement. It's like, Deirdre's getting some new glasses, you know, and the whole nation was involved in choosing the new style. And I mean, I don't think too many style icons come that way in Weatherfield too often.
When she puts those glasses on, she's been Deirdre Barlow. When she hasn't got them on, you know, she can be Annie, and I don't think Annie would want to change those glasses now. I think she'd want to keep them on for the sake of the character.
Raquel, what can we do for you?
Well, I'm not sure. I might have to go into town to a deli, you know, but I thought I'd try here first.
Oh, well, we do pride
Sarah Lancashire's Raquel wanted the wig. She dressed herself from the shoes, even though she was most of the time behind the Rover's bar and you couldn't see her feet. She insisted on wearing Raquel's shoes, because that to her was the character. Without the shoes, she wasn't in the character.
It was the shoes, it was the tights, the shiny tights, the short skirt, the waspy belts that she wore, and the jewellery.
Looking at her, she was a walking fashion disaster. She was, a throwback from the 80s, and there she was in the 90s. On the street, that would be, a fashion disaster, but not on Coronation Street, because that was right for her.
Looked like the girl next door, but kind of was so unaware of herself in it. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of, kind of reticent fashion icon, Raquel.
And her uniform was the curly hair and the short and frilly dresses. She just got that character spot on. She was perfection, and she looked wonderful behind that bar.
Oh, good evening, Norman. What a super day I've had, have you?
With Reg, I created his bow tie look and his pocket handkerchief, and they always matched. And he eventually, I think he got Tie Man of the Year. He also, I think he got Glass Man of the Year as well, because his glasses coordinated.
I used to wear white socks, which were incongruous, really, with the dark suit white socks, and also introduced dicky bow ties, which were, make a statement in themselves, really. To sort of just push the character up a bit out of the normal sort of managerial type to somebody being a bit more, pretentious. But what they got was a neurotic, slightly overdressed man who was regarding himself as the epitome of sartorial elegance, and at the top of the retailing tree, who knew everything there was about retailing and wanted to impart this information to everybody.
Do you know, I think you're going to like it here. In fact, I think you'll manage very well, if you'll excuse the pun. Right, follow me and do as I do.
The classic faux pas, fashion-wise, was Reggie Holdsworth getting his hairpiece, wig, and everybody making fun of it.
Very manly. Yeah, manly. Very rugged.
The idea was because Holdsworth was getting thin on top, that he should have this luxurious head of hair, which would persuade people that he was full of testosterone and virile. And we had about a year of that, and it was absolutely hilarious with this wig. And finally, when the wig had to be disposed of, because he realised it wasn't going to work at the end, he threw it on the floor and set fire to it. But because it was made of nylon, it actually stuck to his shoe. So he ended up with burning feet. a fitting end to his romantic pretensions.
Coming up, the conclusion of our Festival of Fashion and why the leopard never changes her spots. Beware the voice of the beehive.
Oi! Don't go away. I'm on next.
Of all the fashion icons who've prowled the cobbled catwalk, one name stands out above all others.
The ultimate style icon is Bet.
Oh, I mean, it's got to be Bet.
Bet Lynch was classic.
Bet.
Just always looked absolutely amazing.
Big hair, big gob, big earrings, big fashion.
Bet Lynch first stuck her head in the Rovers' return back in 1966. She played a pushy girl from the new clothes factory over the road, and the writers never forgot her. 4 years later, she was brought back without the overalls and curlers, and the Rovers became her territory. It was as if she'd been born to it.
I came from a very similar background. My parents had had a pub in the back streets of Harewood for many years. So the observation that I'd been able to absorb before coming into Coronation Street stood me in very, very good stead. I'm sorry I'm late, Mrs. Walker.
Good heavens! Oh, God, blimey.
That is a sensational dress, Bet.
I never knew you had any dresses like that, honey. Bet, you've got it on back to front.
Big, blonde and brassy, Bet Lynch became a street legend, thanks in no little part to the clothes she wore and the way she wore them.
Well, when Bet started at the Rovers, there was Annie Walker dressing like a queen and Bet dressing like a drag queen. And that's become sort of bigger and bigger, like the hair's become bigger and bigger and bigger. And you just have to say leopard print and you think of Bet.
Everyone involved in creating such a larger-than-life character clearly deserves credit, but there's no doubt who deserves the lion's share. Or should that be the leopard's share?
But the thing that Julie Goodyear did is she stamped on Bet in a very, very clear way by bringing in the beehive and the leopard skin and keeping to it to almost a point of destruction, so that every time you saw her, she was in leopard skin. I always remember the character once going on a cruise, and somehow Julie had found not just a leopard skin coat and hat, but matching suitcases. And a hat box, a leopard skin hat box. She probably had it made.
Her leopard skin and her low-cut blouses and her push-up bras, you know, will go down in history, and I think leopard skin will always be synonymous with Bet. You need to look at a piece of leopard skin and think of Bet Lynch.
If you go into a shop and they're selling leopard skin, I hear people saying, oh, that's a Bet Lynch. They don't call it leopard skin.
In the early days, it was considered just a little bit naughty. But I thought there was something about it that was very right for Bet. And she became known for that touch of and even if you couldn't see it, you always sort of got the feeling that it might be underneath somewhere anyway. That little hint of leopard.
Now, I like this. Oh, those, they wash very well, madam.
Don't rush me.
A stickler for detail, Julie Goodyear trawled the markets around Manchester, trying to spot anything that would help her leopard stand out in the soap jungle.
It was a joy to be able to go out, you know, and find the bits and pieces, and at very, very affordable prices. And because of that, I think it made Bet much, much more believable to viewers. They knew exactly where she was coming from.
When Bet became landlady of the Rovers, it was time for another image change, though of course the leopard couldn't change too many of its spots.
Cigarettes couldn't be just hanging from one side of her mouth or whatever, which is when the cigarette holder came in. That was one of the things. And also, she needed to go upmarket. She went a bit Dallas Dynasty with the shoulder pads, etc. It sounds simple, but it isn't. It isn't, not to get it absolutely right.
Now a Coronation Street Secrets exclusive. Before your very eyes, the making of a soap icon. The expert touches that go into building the perfect Bet.
Evolving that character has taken 30, 40 years. I mean, it's growing all the time. And I know that Julie put an awful lot of work into it to create this look. Definitely looking in the streets of Manchester, going to the markets, even buying her own costume. But it's observation.
Too much makeup, which is not flattering as you get older. But don't let just anybody see this, you know. She would paint the smile on, and the lashes and the sockets that were too dark. Just that bit too much. But somehow, like the illuminations in Blackpool, it worked. No, I actually don't want to wear it for myself. If makeup's on, I'm working. Did you give it a saucer of milk last night, Jill?
It's been fed and watered. Normally you'd set the piece beforehand because it saves time, and it saves all the abuse of Julie's hair. I think if we'd been setting her hair 5 days a week for 20, 30 years, she would be bald.
She likes a bit of glitter. See what I mean now about Blackpool illuminations? The earrings that Bet wore first began because children started to send them in by their bucket load. They were cheap, plastic, tacky, but they were right for Bet as a barmaid. A lot of Bet's look is locked in a certain era, and it doesn't matter because it still works. I'll be back.
And so we come to the end of our Weatherfield Fashion Fiesta. Whatever you think about the style or lack of it on the street, one thing's for certain, when the Corrie clan dresses up, it does tend to be memorable.